Hello and welcome to You're Wrong About Musicals. I'm Esme,
And I'm Nell.
and today we are going to be talking about falsettos.
Oh my God. I
Feeling
love falsettos so much. I do. I genuinely do. Esme's laughing. I love falsettos.
I'm not scared of falsettos fans, that's for sure.
Oh, me neither.
I'm not absolutely fucking terrified of them.
No.
Anyway, let's get onto the news. We've got a lot. Romeo and Juliet opened
The West End
on
one
the
with
West
Tom
End
Holland.
with Tom Holland and Francesca Emma Rivers. I cannot talk.
It's been a long week, guys. I know we said that
Very
last week.
long.
It's been a long week.
This week actually hasn't. It's been long for other reasons, if that makes sense.
This week, for me, this week has been long
Yeah,
because today has
yeah.
been long.
Today has been long for now, whereas last week I
Guys,
was
it
like,
took me like over an hour to make what should have been a 40-minute journey today.
yeah.
TFL, you fucking owe me.
TFL are on Nell's shit list. Watch out. Anyway,
I won't say anything more. I
yeah.
was pissed off.
So back to Romeo and Juliet with Tom Holland.
Mm.
The reviews came out and they were not the raves everyone was expecting.
It was no Sunset Boulevard.
No. we had like a long discussion about this on Tuesday where we were talking it through and talking about like how the show works. Mickey Joe has a very good review where he talks it through. And there were parts where I was like laughing and I think it was just a bit mishandled from start to finish. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of what we said before about,
Mm.
unfortunately, Jamie Lloyd might be directing himself into a box
Yeah.
of these very like stripped back productions. But I also think, I don't know if we said this before, I know we said it on Tuesday when we were wandering around. If you were in the line outside Rough Trade East to go and see Inez Mitchell, and there were these two girls absolutely cracking up while full naming people from their high school, that was us.
Was us. Nell also said something that she wants to repeat on here with the added context of we were at Aeneas Mitchell.
I don't even remember what it was.
I remember what it was.
Okay, you'll have to prompt me.
Do you want me to share it now or?
Well, we've got a point later, so we'll do it
Okay,
then
yeah.
on the news.
On the...
It was good for him to do it now when he's in the point between the absolute success of Sunset on the West End and the ensuing success of Sunset on Broadway about to start.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was good for him. This is just like the trick
Yeah.
of doing these very stripped back shows, or if it was specifically Sunset that worked that way. And I think because the thing was, again, if you look at it that way, is he's basically just testing to see if this is a good way for him to direct every show going forward, or if it was he should still experiment. Possibly the most well-known play ever,
Yes.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
With Tom Holland.
Yes.
And was doing it right after Sunset, which like swept the Oliviers.
And it is hard to have a new take on something like Romeo and Juliet as well.
Yeah. Watch Mickey Joe's video. He says it a lot better than we will. Yeah. I think the program thing is stupid.
Oh, the program
I've seen the program. It's ridiculous.
Stupid. It is hilarious.
If you haven't seen it, the way most programs work is the kind of like two leads. There usually is like two leads.
Yeah.
Each have like a page right at the start of the cast section. They've done that here as well. They have one page for Tom Holland, and one for Francesca Amanda Rivers. The Tom Holland one is like a full page.
It is a full old page, and it's saying a lot of nothing.
It's been like he's worked with Robert Downey Jr. and Marvel. And they like at points it just explains the like plot of movies.
Yeah.
It feels like
when normally it would just be like film and then name it.
Been in this.
Maybe like what year and what director. But that's it.
Yeah. Like theatre, he's been in this at this place.
Yeah.
TV, he played this character in this show.
On this channel.
But yeah, it was, and then compared to his like co-star,
she
has worked a ton. They've borderline done the same amount of work. That's a bit of an exaggeration. Like Tom Holland has done more because he's Tom Holland.
Yeah, but she
But
like
if it was
it's
laid out properly, if they were laid out in the same way, they would look like similar length paragraphs.
because like her bio is laid out how they traditionally are of film. Also, Tom Holland is dressed like he's never left Kingston. Americans are like, oh my god, he looks so fit, like hot. He looks so attractive in these like coming out of the theater, and I was like, he looks like every boy we went to school with.
Bro, he's baby's first road man. Like,
He looks like he should have one of those Nike crossbody bags. Gatsby at ART, it opened. Well, it didn't open. It started performances. And let me just say, I'm in the walls. I've never needed to be in Boston more in my life. What do you mean?
again, ART Gatsby, possibly Esme's perfect show.
Yeah, if I didn't have beef with Florence Welch.
Me with Phantom, possibly my perfect show. Hate Andrew Lloyd Webber.
That was what your point was about, Andrew Lloyd Webber.
The problem is I say so much shit about him that I cannot remember.
I remember because I've been thinking about it for days since you said it. Can we just tell you now? Andrew Lloyd Webber should be in a mental hospital before he's done if he didn't write Phantom. And you wanted to share it on here with the context of we were in line at an ASMR show.
I think we were talking about Cats and Starlight Express specifically and wanting to see them. We were talking something about, I was saying he should write something and like put it on stage because he's able to just fuck around now. Like every other show he's written, it's so bad that he should be like put in a mental hospital. But Phantom is so good that they've kept him out of stuff on. We had Dunkin' coffee.
Dunkin' coffee.
And it wasn't coffee. There was maybe like one shot of espresso. And then like 2 cups of milk and 2 cups of sugar. And I drank the whole thing.
You had a large as well.
A large.
So like
it cost me like £5.
Hours later, we were like still on one.
We had it at like 3 p.m. and then at like 7:30 we were in this queue.
Yeah. And we were like, yeah, I can still feel it. Like, you know, you just
we're
feel
like, that coffee's hit me.
You can feel the caffeine like coursing around your body.
It was great.
It was amazing. Anyway, back to ART Gatsby. I need to be in the walls.
Anyways, ART Gatsby.
Also,
Esme has personal beef with Florence Welch.
Yeah, if this is your first time listening,
that we're not allowed to like it.
With Florence Welch. However, if and when the album comes out and you see me listening to it, no, you didn't. If you ever see me at a production of Gatsby, no, you didn't. That was my clone. I do have questions about how they're doing the no colour thing. If you don't know, apparently...
I think the next thing you have to say is if you ever see Esme watching a bootleg, ART Gatsby, no, she isn't.
No, I don't watch bootlegs, so everyone knows I don't watch bootlegs. Why is everyone covered in dirt? I need to know. Like, what do you mean that this is like Hadestown?
I thought it was very funny, like the night before it opened, there was a sudden influx of people being like, remember guys, it could still be bad.
Yeah, like Sweaty Oracle.
Like, everyone just had this very real fear that was like, we've hyped this up a lot. It had to cancel like 2 previews.
Yeah.
Luckily it wasn't.
And I was talking about this with my dad because as Nell reminded us of last week, I fucking love The Great Gatsby, unironically.
Yeah.
I worked out that I've read 6 books about Gatsby and the Fitzgeralds.
There was, again, a moment in the Inez Mitchell queue.
Yeah.
When she was like, was it 7? Was it 8? No. 6.
I like counted them out.
I thought you were going to go and pull them out.
No, I don't have them there at home. I'm at uni.
Thank God.
Yeah. But like, I do have questions about how Daisy's handled about all of her material stuff. Anyways, Wild Party, the La Chaza version is having a run in Dalston in London.
Fun.
Okay, sure. Oh, there's one piece of news that I don't think we put down that I went, okay, sure, when it was announced. Carrie Hope Fletcher.
I thought it might be that.
In the Calamity Jane tour, because I just saw it and I went, okay, sure.
Why not?
Why the fuck not? Ben Platt is currently doing his residency at the Palace. It's not selling well.
He sung like waving through a window.
He sung Requiem as well, and I was like, why are you doing the
Oh,
one song that
that's not even his song.
you're one not in, two is good? Get that song out of your mouth. Oh, I need him to resurrect to get Mike Feist off of whatever Mike Feist is currently doing, being a movie star, and make him sing Sincerely Me with him. But apparently, someone sat Beanie Feldstein in front of Leah Michelle.
Incredible.
And I think that's what we deserve for having to put up with Ben Platt reopening the Palace. Or if Ben Platt wants to get me at least a bit interested, he should start singing the theatre camp songs.
Please.
He should just do a production of Joan Still.
Honestly, I think he should. Camp Isn't Home. Do you
Camp,
reckon that is his finale? Oh my god.
Camp Isn't Home is a genuinely amazing song as well.
I fucking love that song.
Stephanie Mills to play Hermes. This is so exciting. She has not been on Broadway in like 60 years and was the original Dorothy in The Wiz. Again, Hadestown coming out with very exciting castings. Love it. We love to see it. We see Anais Mitchell.
What else we love to see?
Anais Mitchell.
It was so good.
It was amazing.
Like genuinely.
I didn't cry. I didn't. I almost really did almost cry. Yeah.
We waited like an hour after the end to meet her and get our things signed.
Yep.
And it was worth it.
It was so worth it. It was great. We didn't embarrass ourselves as well, which is really important. We didn't cry or embarrass ourselves. But yeah, all in all, it was a very fun time. We had a great time. At one point, the cast album was just playing.
I think it was about half an hour into queuing.
Yeah.
They just put it on.
They just put it on.
I'm like, this is fair.
Now the issue is that when you have inside jokes that have nothing to do with the actual album, about the album and the songs, it's really hard to have it playing whilst the woman who wrote it sit there.
It was also hard for her to sing some of the and talk about some of the lines. Mm-hmm. There was a specific point when she like quoted a section from Chant.
Oh my god, yeah.
And we genuinely nearly lost it.
There were many moments where I was like, I've got to keep it together. I've got aim of the evening.
There were many moments when I could like clearly see Esme like purposefully not looking at me.
Harps really works in a concert setting. I know it was created for it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anything, any last comments on Anais Mitchell other than it just being cool?
Fucking.
New Little Shop cast starts. The photos look good.
I think it's a good cast. I think we said that when it was announced.
Yeah.
But not a lot more to say. They're making Attack on Titan into a musical at the New York City Centre. I
think it already is, but it's only played in like Japan.
I understand where it's coming from, and I understand the appeal. I don't think that all of these need to be musicals. I know a lot of animes do plays.
Yeah. Well, My Name is Totoro.
I want to make it. I think there is a difference between Ghibli films going to be plays and like musicals and stuff, and Attack on Titan.
Yeah, no.
Which, first of all, is, and I have not paid attention to Attack on Titan in a solid 5 years. Last I remember, though, pretty anti-Semitic.
Interesting.
Yeah. I keep up with it from my sister. I know in Japan, at least, a lot of animes and mangas but have play adaptations. And I think that works because a lot of the time they are not just adapting the story into the stage. They are having a like side quest kind of thing. And sometimes they are doing the story from the show or the manga just on stage. Yeah. Generally, I like that less. I think it can be fun, but I like it less. I think as well, part of it is just me wanting to like gatekeep these things. I'm like, you people should know about Your Lie in April. Yeah. I was like 15 crying my eyes out to Your Lie in April.
See, I hadn't heard of it.
You people don't need to know this.
And then they did the Drury Lane concert and I suddenly now know it.
Exactly. Attack on Titan, very intrigued to see how they do it. I'm thinking puppets, which I love. The other thing about Attack on Titan, first of all, it's like combat, kind of. Yeah. It's very like gory. Yeah. Excited for that. I think technically, from a technical point, it will be incredible. There is a lot from the source material to work with. Yeah. That you can do very creatively. From the pure standpoint of why is Attack on Titan becoming
Yeah,
a musical?
it is a bit
Is
rogue,
it
I
a
can't lie.
musical? Yeah, it is.
It's a musical.
It's I'm also intrigued to see, this is very specific to me. I think
Yeah.
one of the really good things about this is it is giving a lot of space for Asian actors to perform
100%.
professionally.
Yeah. Because same with Your Lie in April, they came out with their full cast and it's all Asian
Yeah,
actors. A lot of them making
yeah.
their West End or professional debuts.
I'm not even going to dispute that. It's really good and it's a really good way to do it.
I'm glad that there's finally some, because we were just talking about Miss Saigon. I'm glad that there's finally some positive
Yeah,
representation in theatre for Asian
yeah.
people.
And I guess in that sense, if these have become very popular,
Mm,
you know, it's a good thing.
Something happened at the Majestic this week.
Yeah, I was live updating this. I
You
was like
were.
laying on my sofa. There was something happening outside the Majestic.
The second it
They
happened, I
had,
was like, oh, it's Audra. It's time for Audra.
yeah, it
But
kind
we
of everyone knew.
but we still made our jokes.
Yeah,
My favorite was Bad Cinderella, obviously.
I liked Bad Cinderella. I just saw a ton of British I saw someone be like, oh my God, guys, it's legally blocked.
I saw someone say Limpika's back.
Yeah, it was a very good just format for it. It was Audra McDonald in Gypsy.
Yeah, it's been pretty much an open secret for ages for
Yeah,
like happening, and now it's been confirmed. Everyone's like, oh, okay. People are definitely or already speculating about the 2025 best
yeah.
actress race. Because let me just say, it is going to be a bloodbath.
I wrote down like maybe this is the reason why all of these shows opened so
Yeah,
last minute this season.
this
Because
this
we were like, oh, Sunset Boulevard is kind of the only big thing confirmed to be opening next season. And I
yeah.
was Audra McDonald and Gypsy. I was like, oh, okay, well,
Okay.
makes sense.
And all I'm going to say is that leading actress race might get a little bit more intense if there's a rumor that's been going around for a while that the London production of Next to Normal is also going to transfer to Broadway with Casey Levy. You guys deserve that production. And if it goes to Broadway, then the likelihoods of us getting a cast recording are going up. And I need a new Next to Normal cast recording. Okay? I'm intrigued to see what next season's going to shape out like. Muriel's Wedding is having its UK premiere at the Leicester Curve, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I have no plans to go and see it.
Yeah.
If I just randomly got tickets, would be very happy to go.
This next point is actually massive for now. I got this email this morning and
Yeah,
went, I know what conversation I'm going to have today. And it is, Hello Dolly are doing £20 tickets for 16 to 30-year-olds.
I'm so excited. I need to go and see Hello Dolly.
We have seriously
And
talked
if I
about,
can go for £20.
since it was announced, we've talked, Nell has really wanted to go see Hello Dolly because of Imelda Staunton. I'm down to see Hello Dolly. And we had this discussion
It's a fair reason.
Yeah, no, I'm not dissing it. We had this discussion at Starkid where you were like, I want to get good seats for Imelda Staunton in Hello Dolly. Want to get cheap ones. But the ones that they've just put up are good seats.
They're good seats for £20.
They were announced, and it is
Fact, yeah.
it is basically like everything on the West End. We were saying that we'll probably decide when we're going or like when if we're going and like when.
Like the week before.
Yeah, when like the breakdowns of who's on when comes out, because we were saying if there's a string of shows that are all next to each other, we might just go for that.
Yeah. I think as well, even last year now,
Yeah.
when we didn't actually get into the event, if that's the right word, we were just outside. We still saw everything fine. There was a TV.
Yeah.
Screen is a better word than TV to describe what it was.
Mm.
We also, where we were, we got to see like the Les Mis and Phantom Cast coming in costume. That was fun. We're not too fussed about getting like into the actual event and like at the front.
No.
We don't need barricade.
I'm not barricade for West End Live. I'm sorry.
But if there's like a kind of maybe like 2 hour period.
If there's a 2 hour period where it's like Les Mis, Phantom, Hades Town, what else would we go see? Kathy and Stella.
We could be here for a full day if there's a good run.
Personally, we both have like our top picks of like.
Can I just read you out the ones that I would really like to see in like a line? So we could just go for like a bit. Yeah. Fangirls.
Mm-hmm.
Hades Town.
Obviously.
would definitely be open for Hamilton being in there.
Yeah,
I'm
if
not going to say no
Hamilton's
to
like,
Hamilton.
because often they like last year they did Phantom, Les Mis, Hamilton all next to each other.
And then like Oklahoma.
Yeah, so we went for that.
Um,
If they do the same this year, then 100% we'll be there.
the Gwyneth Paltrow ski trial musical is performing, and I think I need to be there for that.
I think I'm just intrigued by what's going on at that musical.
Yeah. Cassie and Stella,
We wanna
Kiss Me Kate. Mean Girls, we might have to go for.
see the new KDA One song.
Les Mis will
It's
be
not
there,
been confirmed that there's a new KDA One song, but
but there is.
there is.
Next to Normal will be there.
I think I have to go see that, yeah. I need to be in a crowd of people when Next to Normal be happening.
Oh yeah.
I think it would be a gnarly experience.
Phantom of the Opera will be there.
Boring Cats, the rehearsal footage. Again, we talked about reviving the Concords just so that we could go see this.
So I really want. It looks incredible.
It
Like truly
unfortunately
incredible.
looks amazing. The amount of times I've seeked out that rehearsal footage.
I just keep rewatching it because it's truly incredible.
Like it looks so good. And then last but not least, Sarah B.
Oh yeah, the trailer for Sarah Brightman's Sunset Boulevard in Australia looks great. They included a clip of the guy saying Sunset Boulevard. Just doesn't live up to it, you know?
Yeah.
We've had the performance.
Yes. There's no
We had
cardboard
the
cutout
cardboard
of
cutout.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
It does look good.
Yeah.
However, I think it's just unfortunate that Jamie Lloyd, not unfortunate for this particular production, that Jamie Lloyd got to it first and did an incredible job.
So that now when everyone sees Sunset Boulevard, they're like, why isn't Sarah Brightman covered in blood and why isn't a guy walking down the street whilst the camera follows him? So yeah, that's all the news we have. Believe it or not. It's been such a slow week. I'm joking. This week's been annoyingly packed.
Falsettos.
Falsettos is a musical with music and lyrics by William Finn and a book by James Lapine and William Finn. So Falsettos, many versions. We're just gonna quickly speed run them.
Yeah, I've posed the question, and it has
Yeah.
been answered in her research,
Mm.
of whether we're about to talk about it, but something like In Trousers
Yeah.
as the same thing as falsettos, because it kind of is,
But it also,
also
kind of isn't. Like you have to talk about it if you're talking about the show, but also
Like you can't pretend that In Trousers didn't exist when talking about falsettos. But it's like if you were talking about In Trousers, you could pretend falsettos doesn't exist.
Exactly. It's weird.
It's very weird.
Also, I don't know In Trousers. I don't know.
I've seen people who are falsettos fans get really into it.
People are so into the lore of falsettos and like the whole extended universe.
Go and look up Rent. You'll love the lore of Rent.
This was before Rent.
Yeah,
Anyway,
these people aren't.
these people aren't. No, these people are very much born in maybe the 2000s. These people are internet children. So In Trousers was written in 1979 after graduating from Williams College with a music degree. Finn moved to New York City where he wrote songs and sang them with his friends Alison Fraser, Mary Testa, and Joanna Green. Eventually, he decided to ensemble the songs into a theatrical event. At this point, In Trousers was a vibrant, eccentric, loosely plotted musical about a young man named Marvin and the three women in his life: his high school girlfriend, his teacher, Miss Goldberg, and his wife, Trina, whom he leaves for a man named Whizzer Brown. In the four-character show, Whizzer is mentioned but never seen, was first workshopped in 1978 with Finn as the lead role, and then in 1979 it opened off Broadway at Playwright Horizons. A lot of the show was just like learning about what kind of songs he wanted to write. The show is about Marvin's education and his. That is a quote from William Finn. At this point, they would make a cast album with James Lapine coming on to design the cover art, this being the start of the collaboration between the two. So you can't, that's what I mean, you can't really talk about falsettos without mentioning there's this other musical with all of this added lore of these people.
It is obviously Marvin and Trina.
Yeah.
From, do you say Trina or Trina?
Trina.
I've always said Trina.
Well, because of Victorious.
Yes. But also, I did the exact same thing, and it was kind of more on purpose, because I thought it was funny, and then I just realized I never explained it.
Yeah.
In the Anastasia episode.
Who did you say?
I just kept, the song The Neva Flows.
Yeah.
The Neva. I just kept saying the never for like no reason. I was just like, it'd be really funny if I just mispronounced the word for the entire episode.
Okay.
And I thought I was just gonna address it at some point,
And you
and
just
I
never
just
did.
didn't. I just like, yeah, the never.
It's a bit like us
Jack
and Persephone.
Persephone.
We're never addressing where that comes from.
One day I will. I'm the one who realized where Persephone comes from.
That will have to be behind a paywall or something.
Yeah, it's £40 a year.
You can hear the backstory.
Or $5.33 a month. You can hear where Persephone comes
Where you
from.
can hear where Persephone comes from. And you can also hear a rant of me screaming into a mic if you're going to hear that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We'll release the video of me when Andrew Lloyd Webber walked out. I Love Never Dies.
No, yeah.
Which is great. Yeah. I keep doing it in certain episodes. I'll just like purposefully mispronounce something for the entire episode for no reason. I'm just gonna say Trina this entire episode.
Okay, go ahead. You're just making me think of the Victorious character.
I swear they say Trina though, not Trina. Or
I
maybe
don't
it's the
know.
accent.
It's maybe the accent.
Trina, yeah.
Trina.
I
didn't know that it was also about his high school teacher, which I was like, okay, that's weird. Sure.
just know I know very little about In Trousers. I know about Falsettos. I don't know much about In Trousers. I just know that there is a song called I know that there is a song in Trousers called The Rape of Miss Goldberg.
Yeah, it's the teacher, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like something William filmed, right?
No idea why or what it's about. I just know that there is a song called The Rape of Miss Goldberg.
Yeah.
And it like stayed in all of the versions.
Interesting. In Trousers is like never done now, because why would you?
Because you have Falsettos.
Yeah, you have the finished, polished piece.
Everything you can see about the plot
is
really short.
Yes.
Like it's just like, it's about this guy in high school. He's also gay. That's a big point.
Yeah.
And that's like it.
So March of the Falsettos in 1981. Playwright Horizon's artistic director Andre Bishop urged the two writers to work together. William Finn would say, I was desperate for success, who called Lapine himself to bring him into the creation of March of the Falsettos. I didn't even know that we were writing it together, says Lapine. He'd never done a musical at this point. So they didn't really know what they were doing. It was just fun. Yeah, at this point it would be expanded, so Whizzer was finally like an actual character. Trina and Marvin are still there. What do we call it?
Mendel and Jason are there?
And Jason are there.
It's like a sequel.
Yeah. It's the 5 people that are in Act 1 of what we'd later come to know as Falsettos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's those fuckers. And then, yeah, all of the characters kind of ended in like a nice, happy way. Marvin and Trina... That's right. Yeah, Marvin and Trina end up married. The show ends with a wedding in a lot of ways. Yeah. And that was just kind of it. The saga was supposed to end there. And then in March, and then as like they had just put it on at Playwright Horizons, the AIDS crisis would begin in New York City. And so in 1991, we get the continuation, Falsetto Land. William Finn recalls, I dreamt in Falsetto Land. A key scene was solidified from the very start. According to Lapine, we knew they were going to have about the bar mitzvah happening in Whizzer's hotel room. The show was not very hard to write. During the day, we were going to hospitals and people were dying. It was horrible, horrible time. I'm so glad I could respond in some way that I hoped would make a difference. Because we knew the ending, we felt during the writing of the thing that the audience was going to be way ahead of us. I was shocked that they weren't. So they were like, oh, everyone knows that someone will die of AIDS in this. And then when it would happen, audiences would be really shocked. There'd be people hysterically crying in the theatre. Many of them had AIDS, and you wouldn't know unless people looked sick. It was a terrible, terrible time. For Finn, writing Falsetto Land enabled him to put his anger, rage, and hope into art. The tragedy of Falsetto Land and Whizzer's illness delivered one of musical theatre's most emotional scenes, and then they go on to talk about unlikely lovers. So at this point, again, it's expanded. We've got 2 new characters, Cordelia and Dr. Charlotte.
Yeah. It becomes a 3-act play, kind of.
Yeah.
In that you technically have 3 parts to it. Of In Trousers, March of the Falsettos, and Falsetto Land. Yeah. And then, spoilers,
Yes.
Falsettos, the musical,
Yeah.
completely cut in trousers. Like,
Yeah.
canonically, still happened.
Yeah.
Just does not happen in falsettos. And then Act 1 of falsettos is
March
March
of
of
the
falsettos.
Falsettos, yeah.
Act 2 of falsettos is falsetto band.
Yeah. It's
Which
weird.
is the
It's
thing. That's why it's hard to talk about falsettos without mentioning the other three, specifically in trousers. Because
yeah.
the other two, you can be like, they are just Act 1 and 2 of falsettos, but as
Yeah.
separate, like, one act plays.
And they were also
Shows.
written 10 years after each other. So like really if you're thinking about it, In Trousers and March of the Falsettos were written in like 2 to 3 years of each other, whereas there's a huge 10-year break
Yeah.
between.
And then when you are talking about falsettos,
Yeah.
in trousers doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Again, canonically happened.
Yeah.
If like the reason Marvin is the way he
hmm
is because of
In
In Trousers.
Trousers.
But if you've never heard of and never seen In Trousers, it all still makes sense.
Yeah.
In Trousers just acts as a kind of weird prequel.
Yeah. Sometimes people joke, they're like, haha, why don't we have more musical sequels? And everyone's like, well, Andrew Lloyd Webber tried, trust me. And it didn't go well.
Trust me.
Falsettos kind of is sequels of each other.
I think maybe it's just because generally we accept two-act musicals better. I think that, and again, I think it might also be in part because of Andrew Lloyd Webber ruining
Again,
the name of musical sequels.
Again, mental hospital if you didn't write Phantom.
But I think there's a reason why Falsettos is so much more known than the other three. Like, if you were to talk about falsettos with kind of normal musical fans, they'd be like, yes, falsettos. Specifically, the like 2016-17 revival.
The two-act musical with Christian
two-act musical with Christian Borle and
Stephanie
Andrew
J. Borg and
yeah.
Andrew Reynolds. And that very talented 11-year-old.
Yes. But they know it's if you're talking about a falsettos fan,
yeah,
those exist.
Oh, they're about
every day on TikTok. I get like 50 of them being like, guys, if you like falsettos, interact with this. I'm like, well, I do. But
I do.
Not in the way you want me to.
I don't know In Trousers and I feel like you're gonna judge me. And they'll be like,
and it's I saw one of them and I was like, does anyone have the like long lost In Trousers recording?
Yeah, from like the 70s.
Does anyone?
I'm sure some guy who's been around the block since the 70s does, but he's not on TikTok, guys.
Yeah.
Falsettos culture is so weird. Don't come for us.
It's crazy.
For us.
It was possibly one of the weirdest musicals to get a pro shot.
I know why it did.
I fully understand it. I think it's an incredible pro shot. I'm very glad it has a pro shot.
However,
the idea of falsettos, you want to get into falsettos, you're like, let me see what's the story around this. You know, I know Rent. I know what's happened around Rent. I need to understand what's happened around falsettos. There are 3 shows that comprise falsettos. One of them actually doesn't, but does. And the 14-year-old on TikTok only likes In Trousers.
14-year-olds on TikTok sit around discussing Marvin's character development over a course of 20 years.
We're making fun of them too much. That was us once. Not about falsettos.
Not about falsettos.
I don't know, man. I was like, no, guys, you don't understand Hamilton the same way I do. Hamilton changes. I
was like that about Next to Normal, unfortunately.
Still like that about Next to Normal.
Yeah, okay, it's my Pookie, okay? It's like if they put Tuck Everlasting on a West End stage, would be Falsetto Land would be the thing that would really propel falsettos into the musical theatre mainstream because it won Drama Desk Awards for Outstanding Lyrics, Outer Critics Awards for Best Off-Broadway Musical, and a Lucille Lortel Award. So this is the one where they're like, oh, this is good, and not just a weird thing that William Finnan's doing. It was hard for it to get produced on Broadway because, in the words of William Finn, he said it was hard for it to get produced only because it has been called an AIDS play so often. Again, early 90s. We have not had Rent.
We've got to stop bringing up Rent because we sound like early 2000s theatre cricket.
We sound like the New York Times. But you know what I mean? Like, the culture when falsettos was happening and when it was happening were really quite different when it came to AIDS.
Yeah.
So yeah, they mashed Falsetto Land and March of the Falsettos together. And now
I don't
they're
even think
one.
you can call it mashed because it
No,
is literally
they just threw them
March of
out.
the Falsettos, an interval falsetto land.
I think they cut some stuff, like they cut some lines and a bit of music here and there.
If they probably added like reprises, then yes.
Yeah, they would trim some of the fat of the show and make it more cohesive as a singular piece of theatre. That's all they did. Otherwise, they just kind of were like, we're putting it on Broadway. It would have a very emotional response with William Finn saying, I've never seen audiences respond the way they have to the show. This article called him out and was like, Finn, who obviously is his own biggest fan, all these students are coming
You
for.
have to be with a
Yeah,
shows like these.
I mean, in a lot of ways, he sees himself as Marvin.
I do understand that.
Mm.
However, it does feel a little like Jason Robert Brownie. Of like, no guys, I know I'm in the wrong. I think I just like falsettos more. I
Yeah.
feel like Marvin to me has always read more of just a complex character
Mhm.
than Jamie, who is just, guys, I know I'm the bad guy. I know everyone
Just
hates me.
28, but he's just 28
I
and the
know
savior of writing.
I'm so incredible, but I know that makes people mad.
I have flaws, I swear, and they're being too devoted to
And
the
they're
art of
being too
writing.
good. They're being too perfect. And women just can't handle that about me.
Women be annoyed because I love writing too much. Hey, Jason Robert Brown, I know you appeared the
Women,
second we said your name.
they hate me because they can't succeed the way I do.
No.
Oh, guys,
No.
look at me, I know I'm in the wrong. But I also
Also,
think Marvin is a far better written character. And I guess that
yeah,
would come from having 3 shows where
yeah,
you are fully explored.
even someone like Trina is more complex in a lot of ways than Kathy.
I think even the fucking lesbians next door were
Yeah.
in like one act
Yes.
and barely are in some ways more complex than Kathy is.
Fucking not Jamie, Jason.
Hasten.
Jason is a very complex character.
I think I'm really remembering that Falsettos, while weird
Yes.
in a lot of ways, is a really good musical. Because I think if you just jumped in and started writing March of the Falsettos point, it would be weird
Yeah.
because you would just be writing this like dick Marvin.
Yes. Wiz is complicated as well.
Yeah.
I feel like also they would be hinting that Wizard was gonna die. Spoiler alert, Wizard dies really early
No.
on. Whereas I saw someone say like the almost the realness of falsettos is that there's no hinting, there's no
Yeah.
foreshadowing. Like life just kind of happens.
I will continue to say how weird the early production of falsettos was, as in the 3 shows to
Mm.
become falsettos. I do think is weird. I
Yeah.
do think it created a very effective musical.
100%.
You couldn't do it for something like Phantom or Les Mis,
No.
which was shockingly similar time frame,
Oh,
like weirdly
there is a
so.
gnarly comparison that is made at one point that I had to include.
Oh
Um,
God.
and I was like, unfortunately, I feel like they were really onto something when they said this, and that's crazy.
Because it's not like non-linear writing. Like
No, it
in fact,
is
it is very linear,
linear.
of including a prologue
Yeah.
or a prequel.
Mm.
Maybe it's like the spacing out.
Yeah.
Like it is very much you write this teenager young man as you are a similar age. 10 years later, you get to write with a bit more maturity, and then you get to write another like a few more years later with the knowledge of ongoing real world things.
Yeah.
Is organic the word I'm looking for?
Yeah. It allows. He's telling a story not because he wants to, but almost because he needs to.
Yeah, I think when you're starting a story from the end, this sounds really pretentious,
No,
but
so.
as in when you are writing a story and you already know that you are writing an entire story and you know the beginning, middle, and end,
Mm.
you always end up with some kind of foreshadowing
100%.
and like some kind of like omnipotent knowledge because you as a
Yes.
writer know how you want to end your story
I mean,
and you know what like happens to the characters.
Hadestown takes this right to the extreme and goes, it's an old song
Yeah.
and we're gonna sing it again. Whereas Falsettos gets to include the realism. You don't
Yeah,
know that there's
you
going
don't
to
get that in
be.
real life.
Yeah.
like foreshadowing happens in real life. You don't know it's foreshadowing.
Exactly.
When you're watching or reading something that has foreshadowing in it, you can kind of tell when it is foreshadowing, especially with a show that has a big part of it around AIDS, where everyone is going like you were reading before, everyone is going in thinking one of these guys is gonna die.
Yeah.
You know, it's gay men in the 80s, one of them is gonna die.
No one like did because and I mean the way that they even handle it in the second act or Falsetto Land, I'm just gonna call them by the acts names. I'm not gonna do that. When they're like something bad, they never name it. They're just like because they didn't really know what to call it then. They were just like,
yeah,
it's bad, it's killing people.
even more so than sorry to sound like a New York Times critic, than something like Rent.
Yeah.
It's a very real show.
100.
Like we had the whole debate with Rent about it.
Mm.
And whether it's a real show or whether it's like glamorizing poverty. Whether it's banned glamorizing poverty. Falsettos, there's not a whole ton to glamorize. Nothing ever really happens. There's this guy who's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
He has a weird family.
Yeah.
They go through shenanigans.
Yeah.
There is a tragedy
100%.
that is not just to their family, it's to like millions.
Yeah. But you still got to go to your bar mitzvah. You still got to go to your bar mitzvah and become a man.
You still got to grow up. And I think the only reason you get it like that in Falsetto so much more than in any other show is because it was, again, written organically, which is the best word I can think to describe it. Finn wasn't writing it with like any knowledge of what was going to happen at the end, because when he was writing In Trousers, he didn't know about March of the Falsettos and Falsetto Land. When he was writing March of the Falsettos, he didn't know about Falsetto Land. And when he was writing Falsetto Land, he didn't know what was going to come after. All he knew was that he was still alive and he was like staying living.
Yeah, all he knew was that he was just writing the continuation and he never expected to go back to it. He was just writing because he felt like it was they were the right people to tell this story that was so important to him.
It's like he had written a show 2 years ago and now 2 years of things have happened that he has to write about. I think if he wrote another one today, it would be really organic as well. Of, you know, would it be about surviving after the AIDS crisis?
Would it be about the pandemic?
Have any foreshadowing or any knowledge of what it was going to be about? Because when he was writing eventually the full falsettos, he didn't know anything else that was going to happen after it.
No, exactly.
I don't know if I'm like deeping it too much.
No,
I hope that comes across right. It's
I know
like
exactly
organically
what you're saying.
written.
It's such a. I mean, this is the way that falsettos was written and performed. Or that's also what's important to say. They were performed individually, for years until they were like, let's mash them together.
Because we did last week Fun Home.
Yes.
Similar stories, not really.
I saw someone talking about them in tandem because Falsettos and Fun Home were playing on Broadway at the same time at one point.
Yeah.
I also saw someone
similar
call, like,
or unsimilar, you see them.
Yeah. I also saw someone call Falsettos a tragicomedy, like in the same way that they called Fun Home a tragicomedy. So there are comparisons to be made outside of the whole gay parent.
They're obviously two very different timelines within the shows themselves, because one of them is completely non-linear, Fun Home.
Yeah.
And one of them is almost not too linear, because that sounds bad.
Chronological.
Yeah. It's very, very linear because of the way it was written, which, sorry to keep bringing that up, but I think it's a really important part of why Falsettos is the way it is.
No other musical has been written in this format.
Even if you were to reorganize Fun Home into completely linear, like if you were to take each section and basically put it where it fit best in a timeline, it still wouldn't work the way Falsettos works. The writer knows what happens throughout it.
There's no hindsight. We're not allowed to be able to take away some deep message from it and tie it all up in a nice little neat bow because we don't know how we're going to feel about it in 10 years' time.
I don't think it's not hindsight, it's foresight.
Yeah, that's probably a better word. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the characters in Falsettos can look back at what they have done.
Trina does
but they can never but they can never look forward and prepare for what's about to happen.
No.
In Fun Home they kind of can.
The retelling of a story to learn a lesson.
It's that when young Alison is talking, she already knows what is going to happen to her.
Yeah.
Even though she doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so people would just sit at intermission with their families and they would see this story and they'd go, Apparently this is all according to William Finn. Again, I was not alive in the 90s to go see Falsettos and bet for myself that these
Really?
conversations were happening, believe it or not. Big shock to everyone listening. I am not like 40 years old. Being like, are you gay? And then some of the kids would say, what do you think? See, it's not all that bad. So it's almost like a way for these conversations to happen. With William Finn saying it's about traditional family values, but it's not what everyone always thinks a family is. It would open at the Golden Theatre on the 29th of April 1992. I only have one review for Fun Home because we're not actually going to do our thoughts until we get to talk about the revival. Because I think that's the version that we're both really familiar with compared to like the 90s one. I know it happened, but they basically were able to completely rebrand the show for the 90s for the 2016 revival and give it a new lease on life. So the New York Times would say last night, the opening of William Finn's exhilarating and heartbreaking musical Falsettos at the John Golden Theatre marked the end of a Broadway season. And what more perfect to end this season can be? In a theatre year marked with signs of the American musical renaissance on Broadway, the explosion of American playwriting off Broadway, Falsettos is a show which is boundary separating off Broadway and Broadway is obliterated. A show in which the stylish avatars of the new American musical embrace the same thorny urban landscape of embattled men and women have found so many new American players. Mr. Finn's range is a decade's range, at least see most admittedly limited perspective of mostly white, moderately young, affluent, often Jewish New York. Whilst March of the Falsettos first charged confidently towards in a tiny studio upstairs theatre of Playwrights Horizons 11 years ago, nothing bad was happening. The spirits of that moment pumps through Act 1 of Falsettos, as pouring out as a time capsule. Act 2 plays out in another key as lovers no longer come and go, but live and die fortissimo. Falsettos may now be a Broadway musical, but it cannot and does not pretend for a second that the lovers have stopped dying. There's a heaven-sent gift of Mr. Finn and the company that they make you believe that the love, no less fortissimo, somehow lingers on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good review.
It is. The New York Times was sane for once. Woo! Well, they didn't have any rant to talk about. Jonathan Larson was still hanging around, getting his material, living his life so he could
Do know, we'll have Rent soon.
There was no Rent comparisons in the revival stuff. I thought that at least one would mention Rent, and they didn't. I was very proud of them. At the Tony Awards, it would be nominated for Best Musical, Best Book of a Musical, Best Original Score, Best Featured Performance by a Leading Actor in a Musical for Michael Rupert, Best Performance by a Featured Actor in a Musical for Jonathan Kaplan, Best Performance by a Featured Actress in a Musical for Barbara Walsh, and Best Direction of a Musical. It would win Best Book and Best Original Score, losing out on Best Musical to Crazy for You. In his speech, William Finn would say, "Tonight I love everybody in the audience, but I am a miserable person." Thank you, William Finn.
Real.
I love the honesty. It was run for 486 performances at the Golden Theatre, with there being talks for a movie deal and a London run of Falsettos. That's Falsettos on Broadway in the 90s. It kind of then became an obscure musical. James Lapine was writing with Sondheim. William Finn was writing Spelling Bee.
Doing their own thing.
They're both doing their own thing. And then in 2015, Jordan Roth, who kind of scares me. That's a joke, but that man kind of scares me. Jordan Roth, who is used to own Jujamson Theatres, which is like, they own like the Walter Kerr, the August Wilson, the St. James. Like, they own a lot of theatres on Broadway, in the same way that like Andy's a big landlord over here, they're a big landlord over there. He said Falsettos is a bucket list of shows that he long hoped to produce, which is a part of it, saying, "I'm a part of a larger club of theatre lovers who were changed by this show, who passionately believe that Falsettos is our show." Basically saying, I can't wait to have our show back on Broadway again. So this kind of became his passion project. Because like, we're doing it, we're reviving Falsettos on Broadway. Because Falsettos is a weird show. We've said that.
Yeah. Pretty extensively.
a lot of producers were like, I'm not giving you my money. Sorry. Are you gonna stunt cast it to you need to have someone who it is like this person in falsettos, like above the title. And also a lot of the show works on the chemistry between the five core family.
Yeah.
And the way they did it back in the 90s was just have the people who've been working on it for decades. So you have that built in. But bringing new people to it is such a daunting task. So it was indefinitely postponed until Lincoln Center got involved because they're a non-profit. They were like, yes, we will help you produce this. And it would cost $5 million to produce, despite having 7 people and a tiny band.
You look at the Broadway prices nowadays.
Yeah.
Not that bad.
Not that bad.
Rough.
Yeah.
But not that bad.
It would definitely cost a couple million less over here. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, bring it. So being backed by commercial producers led Judy Ampleton was like out of the question because of this. Andre Bishop, who had worked on it in the beginning in the 90s, brought it back because he was like, this is my baby. We're bringing it back. We're bringing it back. You guys don't have to make money. Oh yeah, and it would happen at the Walter Kerr, and James Lapine would be back to direct it again, with him saying about it in 2016, it's a different world we live in now. So I wonder how it's going to be received. I don't even know if the show's evidences the horribleness of the times, because it's talking about family and a lot of other things in a world that was being devoured by AIDS in an era.
I get that.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's hard to talk about because fandom culture is, first of all, so much bigger and more well known.
Yes.
And also just so different from how it was when Falsettos was first produced.
Yeah.
In that many people would say you didn't have a fandom. You had fans of Falsettos.
Yeah.
But there was not a fandom in the same way there is now. That is partially because of like the time, in that now like internet, all that shit. We've gotten weirder.
I understand.
But also because the situation was no longer so impactful.
Yeah. He goes on to say, in an era where for many HIV is managed like a chronic disease and new medications provide preventative options, Falsettos stands as a musical theatre history lesson for younger generations of theatre goers, both from the LGBT and straight communities. But in the wake of the recent US presidential election, 2016, the musical's return to Broadway couldn't be more timely.
Whereas at the time, it was, this sounds sarcastic, but it was like a think piece. Like, it was very, you go in, you have an emotional response, and it leaves you thinking and remembering it.
Yeah.
Falsettos in 2016 was, first of all, in a very weird time period, because people were shipping the founding fathers heavily.
Hey,
and
here's an actual show where you can ship
people.
2 guys, and it's not slave owners.
So weird culture at the time.
Yeah, weird time.
The 2016 musicals culture, weird time. As someone who was there, weird
and
time.
it was like the perfect time for a show to come back like this.
Yeah, but I worry if a lot of its impact reduced from, one, the fact that it wasn't, what's the word, relevant in 2016, and 2, because people were just shipping it, like being like, oh my god, my 2 cute babies, Marvin and Wizard, they're so in love. And actually, alternate universe, everybody lives, nobody dies. Wizard and Marvin live happily ever after, and they're all like one big happy family, and Jason grows up like really happy. I was like, I understand the appeal of that. Like, it is a sad musical, but it is very important for Wizard to die.
Yeah. As horrible like as it is, that Wizard dies, he kind of needs to. Because people were dying, and they were dying without real answers or meaning, almost.
Like, I think it's really interesting the people who talk about, like, nowadays, I see these guys a lot on TikTok.
They're everywhere.
Why my TikTok is convinced that I'm like in the falsetto fandom. I'm not.
I know exactly what you mean. I get them every day.
But I see a lot of people who do the thing of like, I think it's really interesting to think that after Falsettos ends, Marvin will also die. He like almost definitely contracted AIDS as well.
He either has AIDS or is maybe lucky enough to have it detected early and be on one of the first drugs, but the likelihood of that happening for him aren't amazing.
I think for a kind of 80s audience, or like
Early
90s audience.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah, 80s, 90s. You watch the end of Falsettos or the end of Falsetto Land, and you think, well, Wizard's dead. Marvin is going to die.
What's also going to happen to Cordelia and Dr. Charlotte?
When you watch it in 2016, it's, oh my God, this horrible tragedy. How will this family recover?
Yeah.
Let's think about that.
Yeah.
It's again just a difference of time period, which I'm torn on. Because, like,
Yeah.
on the one hand, we obviously can't ever watch it in the original context. You can
No.
think of the original context,
You can have the historical
but
context of what it was like to be around during the AIDS crisis.
it's like obviously they're all fictional characters.
Yeah.
So again, not real.
Not real.
But it's like when you see a character and they're like going through the same thing that you are personally going through, you will have a far or that you relate to a far bigger emotional response. The core audience of the kind of 90s falsettos were going to relate to the characters in falsettos.
100%, yeah.
Like, even if you were like straight, if you were seeing Broadway, probably knew someone who was gay. And so in that sense, you were put into like Trina or Mendel or even Cordelia and Dr. Charlotte's shoes
or
of
Jason.
Watching the people or Jason. You might have a family member.
Yeah.
Or you were gay and you were watching the people around you die.
Yeah.
And not only were you suffering, knowing it could happen to you, and you don't know what is happening, but it could happen to you.
Yeah.
But you're also trying to reassure your entire family that actually you're fine and it's all okay because you don't want them to suffer either.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're watching it in 2016, well, that was like 20 years ago. Like, I can relate to Dr. Charlotte and Cordelia.
I love
I
that they
am a
just
lesbian.
call her Dr. Charlotte.
Dr. Charlotte and Cordelia. I can relate to them because I'm a lesbian. I have never had to care for a man with AIDS and watch them die, which was a big part of, I know for a fact, a big part of lesbian culture and gay men and lesbian women solidarity in the 80s. But I have never had to go through that, and I probably never will.
Because medications and the way we treat it is so different.
So my relation to them is very limited, is very surface level.
Yeah.
And I'm going to speak for Esme here.
Okay. Yeah.
Esme knows people who are gay.
Yeah.
She hates them. She hates them.
Guys, I'm definitely not named after my uncle's drag persona.
Esme actually hates me as well. No, but Esme knows people who are gay.
Yeah, and
so she can
I've
relate
had
to
family members who have lived through the AIDS crisis as gay people.
Yeah, so you can relate to, again, characters like Trina, Mendel, Jason, etc. But you are probably never going to have to watch them die of AIDS, and there'll be nothing you can do. Yeah,
I'm very thankful that we live in that time.
The connection is very surface level.
Yeah, I think this song's good. I like it's funny and like I have very different relationship to falsettos than someone would in the 90s.
Like listening to I'm Breaking Down.
Oh, bang of a tune. Like
it's like, is it Ballad of a Homeschool Girl? Olivia Rodrigo.
Where are you
like
going
all the dudes I like are gay.
Yes.
The same concept of, you're in love with this guy. He's gay, he's just using you as a cover. Same concept, very different context.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, I just think an overall lesser level of relation between the audience and the story, which doesn't make it bad. Like, Falsettos is still a very good and successful musical in the 2016 revival.
I'm glad that Falsettos was able to carry on its legacy and be in the public consciousness once again.
But I think it's just a problem you have with all musicals. Rent feels like a different story to what it was in the 90s.
Yeah, I also feel like I wonder all these new age TikTok fans, and we're not coming at you, I'm just deeply fascinated.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing of, I know that was me 10 years ago. And so I'm so intrigued to realize this is what everyone who is older than me thought of me.
Also, like, why falsettos? Anyway, we'll get to it. I wonder how many of them are engaging with the historical context of the AIDS crisis, if that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Less than should be,
Like, how many of them are understanding how real it is? And I think that this could probably be used as a very effective tool to like know what's going on.
Yeah. And I'm definitely coming at it from like my brain is really slow today. I like can't think.
That's been me every week. This week has been the first week in ages, guys, where I've not like had something kind of traumatic happen to me and then had to get on mic.
Not like prestigious, but like snobby, I guess.
I know exactly what you mean.
As in like, well, I know about the AIDS crisis, so I understand falsettos,
I'm
but
the
do you
expert.
understand falsettos?
What a lot of what I know about the AIDS crisis does come from a family member of mine who lived through it and like saw it
Yeah.
all go down. But I would still never claim to be an expert because
Yeah, like
I'm not.
obviously everything I know about it is secondhand.
Exactly. Again, we
Um,
weren't alive in the 90s. Hate to break this to you.
I'm very aware when I'm talking about falsettos, I'm being too snobby about it and
I
being like,
sound
these
like
kids don't understand.
I
Like
sound
I
like I should
understand
be
any better.
I should be smoking a cigarette and go like kids these days.
Yeah. But also in 2016, I did not have the deep like knowledge and understanding of the AIDS crisis that I have
No,
now. I knew
no.
about it,
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
I'm sure the kids into it now know about it because they're watching falsettos.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Again, it's because of the time we live in now, and so it is definitely privileged, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
But I think it's okay if 14-year-olds don't know the true extent of the AIDS crisis because they want to watch a musical about it.
I
You know?
do, and I implore them if they're really into falsettos, engage with some other types of media about the AIDS crisis. I mean, Pride, the movie.
Yeah.
There's talks of a musical adaptation of it, which I fear my uncle would actually new if that would
Oh my
happen.
God.
But there's stuff like
There are other musicals about AIDS. Rent.
Rent. Yeah,
I think it's not a good, but
yeah.
a
It's an
start.
it's
It's
a
an
change.
introduction.
Yeah, this should not be where
Yeah.
you should not claim you're an expert on
This
AIDS
should not be
living.
like the be all end all AIDS education.
Exactly.
But if you are watching it and you want to know, like,
More.
why did Wizard die? Why is this such a big deal?
Hmm.
You know, why is he dying for something that I know has medication and
Yes,
that he could get? Do some
do
research.
some research. Um,
Look it up.
so this is what James Lapine would say about it as well. Um, so he's talking about teaching at NYU, which in his words is a very gay aware place. And they all respond to his song Mark's All Male Thanksgiving because AIDS was starting, which in a moment which felt really possible for gay liberation, AIDS then kind of put a damper on that. And it interrupted this feeling of possibility, and it was so horrible. It was the ugliest joke in the world. This is a quote from him. Just when things were changing, AIDS came along. The fact that AIDS revealed people to be gay and no one knew was gay. I think there's a reason why I think that's the reason why gay marriage happened. People are no longer afraid of people who are gay. They're their uncles, their neighbors, their
I
friends.
guess as well, yeah, it's the context of gay marriage was in America legalized the year before.
Yes, yes, yes.
I just saw this tweet, so take it with a grain of salt,
Mm,
of someone being like talking about a kid they knew who
mm,
didn't understand like why these people were being made fun of or bullied for being gay. It's like, oh,
yeah.
but they just, it's just being gay. You know,
Mm,
you're allowed to get married.
yeah.
And it's like, no, until like what, 10 years ago you weren't in America,
Yeah,
at least.
yeah, under 10 years ago.
Just
Just. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary.
It's great. I remember this is so fucking stupid.
I remember the Modern Family episode that they
I
made.
was gonna say, I remember Modern Family. That's like my pinpoint for the time.
I remember
Like I know
everyone.
it was 2015. I was like
Yeah,
Modern Family.
it was. I remember the episode very well.
It's the one where it's like Jay and his
Manny are
son
at the courthouse.
Manny, and everyone thinks they're trying to get like
Get
married.
married.
It's like no, just was his passport.
Anyway,
But I guess it's stuff like that as well because you had a gay couple in Modern Family
yeah.
since its beginning. Then it was like season 6 or something ridiculous, like
Mhm,
towards the end
mhm. Guys,
when they were allowed to get married.
guys, I'm gonna say something. Glee ended before gay marriage was legal.
Exactly.
Or just like it finished the same year gay marriage was legal. Kurt and Blaine are unfortunately historic for gay representation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've lost a lot of like queer history. You're
Mm.
gonna hear that a lot from me this month. It's something
Oh
I think
yeah,
about a lot.
guys, finally it is June.
Have you guessed the theme?
Have you guessed the theme?
We're continuing it really strongly next week. But next week's a big one for like Pride musicals.
Depends who you ask, actually. I'm so glad May's almost over. It was probably one of the worst months of my life.
We're recording this on the last day of May.
I woke up today and I thought it was June, and then I found out it was still May, and I was like, for fuck's sake. Unless you count A New Brain, which got an encore staging last summer, this is Finn's first major revival and is outfitted with his friends, Christian Borle as Marvin, Betsy Wolfe, who started on the road in Spelling Bee, Andrew Reynolds as Whizzer, who was on Little Miss Sunshine, and then also alongside them is Stephanie J. Block as Trinna, Brandon Uranowitz as Mendel, and Tracy Torns as Dr. Charlotte, and Anthony Rosenthal as Jason.
Really an icon as Jason.
That little boy is very talented.
What's he up to nowadays?
I think he's in college.
I think we have looked this up.
We have looked this up because he is a very iconic little boy. Let's see what our friends over at the New York Times have to say about this revival. There is hardly a moment in this exhilarating, devastating revival of the musical Falsettos that doesn't approach or even achieve perfection. This singular show about an unorthodox family grappling with the complexities of, well, just being a family, unorthodox or otherwise, has been restored to life after some 25 years after it was first produced. Vitality. It feels fresh and startling as it first did back in 1992. The achievement seems almost miraculous because of the intervening years America has gone through cultural changes that might, in theory, have made the show its sweet and sour score by William Finn and its economical book by Mr. Finn and James Lapine seem a relic. David Rockwell's set resembles children's building blocks, which are manipulated by the actors. God, do we know about those building blocks?
I know the cube.
I know the cube. Placed against a shifting Manhattan landscape, its ingenious illustration we are watching people laboring to arrange a comfortable life for themselves and their loved ones, with continually having to readjust it. But Falsettos never feels like a singing time capsule. It's a fundamental subject, is mysterious, meandering, completing emotion we refer to as love, which hasn't changed in the last 25 years. For that matter, many more after that. Love is blind. The characters sing early on. Love can tell a million stories. Love's unkind and spiteful in a million ways. But the conclusion of this exceptional production, we feel the dizzying sense of having heard a bounty of such stories, and yet they have been so tightly knit together and have felt like one interrupted song, a song that I could happily listen to forever.
I think it's a very good review.
It's a very good review, yeah. New York Times.
The thing I was looking at was I wanted to look up who wrote it, which I now know. A man called Charles Isherwood.
I felt like it was an Isherwood.
Because the issue I have is him being like, it's not an issue, but him being like, oh, but it's, it's still very relevant and it's not like a time capsule. And it's like the story still comes through. He was born in 1964.
Yeah, he saw the original Falsettos, I believe.
He saw the original Falsettos. He lived through the AIDS crisis. I don't know if he's gay or not. He's a theatre critic.
They're their own breed. They're not real.
That's not an insult. But I think it's one of those things that obviously when you are watching it and when you are reviewing it, you're like, no, this isn't outdated. This is still telling the exact same story without like seeming like it's something from the past. Because, and this is going to sound rude, you are from the past.
You have this history is history you have lived.
If you would try to if you showed me a musical about 2020, I would say, no, this is still like too recent. I wouldn't like it, but I'd say this is still too recent. It was like 4 years ago. Like, I get what you're saying, and I agree with most of the points. And again, like, I'm not disagreeing that there is still a impactful part of Falsettos is still impactful. It's never lost that, but it is like objectively less impactful when being performed in 2016. And if I were to watch it today, it would be less impactful. Yeah. Than it was in the 90s.
Or maybe
when it was at like the peak.
It would mean different things.
Yeah. You're watching it now and it is a tragedy. in the same way that like the Titanic is a tragedy, where you're like, yes, it's very sad and it can, definitely somewhat preventable,
Yeah.
but it's in the past and there is only
Yeah.
so much like sympathy I can give. Whereas when you were watching it in the 90s, it was still happening and it had just happened. And it wasn't just this is something that has happened. This is something that's happened to me and my friends and my family. Whereas now it's like Esme was saying, it's like, yeah, a family friend. I'm like, yeah, someone I know
Yeah.
who like I talk to occasionally did live through it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's not meant to be like falsettos is bad now. We've got to get rid of falsettos because it doesn't mean anything anymore. It still
Also,
does. It just
yeah,
means something different.
it means something
And saying
entirely
like
different. Yeah, I agree.
saying it's not a relic, I think diminishes what falsettos is, which is that it is a relic.
And that's
It is
fine.
it is
The Hollywood Reporter would say, in fact, pretty much everything about the Lincoln Center's ideally cast Broadway revival, again directed by Lapine, with as much humor as sensitivity, makes it a pure pleasure. The musical firmly knotted to its era, unfolding first in 1976. The characters are
nine.
are so fresh. The writing so emotionally insightful. The situations played with much of the feeling that falsettos hasn't aged a day. A large part of the ingenious sung-through show's durability is the generous spirit and the large affection in which the writers approach every single last one of their imperfect characters. I think that review grapples with the legacy of falsettos and it being so set in its time period a little bit more than the New York Times does.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's at least acknowledges that it is like knotted to its era.
Yeah.
And I think even then, that's why the like it hasn't aged a day has a different meaning in this sense. Not that it hasn't aged a day and how impactful it is,
mm,
in that you are still watching the raw emotions that
yeah.
people who are living through it went through.
Yeah. The Guardian would give it 4 stars because they never give anything 5 stars.
Fuck the Guardian.
March is perhaps the more interesting half. Nearly every number explores a character's emotional state, and as a result, the work is often radical intimacy, in which people seem to flay themselves before the audience, warts and wounds and all. One lyric insists, play it raw, don't play it pretty. Sex and games in New York City. That's of all the lyrics you could have chosen, that's the one you
Yeah,
choose. Like, there's so I would have so picked one from You Gotta Die Sometimes. Or what's Trina's song, Holding to the Ground?
yeah. Holding on to the
Um,
ground.
yeah, that's a banger of a tune. I fucking love that song. Oh, Unlikely Lovers. I don't know, there's so many other ones that you could have done. Songs mutilate from one style to another. Musical themes and metaphors attack, retreat, and then retaliate. The second act is more conventional, and narrative art familiar with the characterizations less intense, particularly those of the lesbians. But it is clear here that the work's emotional heart beats more muscularly, and everyone leaves who leaves without shedding a tear may want to see his or her ophthalmologist. I believe that's an eye doctor.
Synopsis.
Synopsis.
William Finn and James Lapine's musical combines their off-Broadway works of The March of the Falsettos and Falsettoland, which tell the story of a gay man named Marvin, his lover Whizzer, Marvin's wife Trina, and their extended family from the early 90s through the early days of the AIDS crisis. Not the best synopsis I've ever read, but gets the point across.
Gets it across.
I would call it so much of the synopsis as an introduction, like an overview,
That's
more than a
definitely
synopsis.
that's a lot of spoilers in that. One thing about falsettos is I think one of the reasons why it probably is so successful to this day is because of the way it's able to combine the comedy of life
Yeah.
almost and like wrap it up in like this bow and be like, yes, these people are messy, they're very flawed. Marvin hits Trina at one point.
In the song, Marvin hits Trina.
In the song, Marvin hits Trina. She's marrying his what's the word that they
psychiatrist.
Use? Psychiatrist. Which is crazy. Why is the psychiatrist marrying his patient's ex-wife? I mean, even like having your second song? No, having one of your first songs be called My Father's a Homo.
/ everyone tells Jason to see a psychiatrist.
Songs have goofy ass names. The opening song is called Four Jews in a Room Bitching.
It's just the whole first act, again, because it was its own show. up until maybe like the chess game
Oh, the chess
is
game.
jokey. Like it's funny. It's like,
Yeah.
look at these guys in this really weird family.
Yeah.
Like this
Aren't they
strange
all
situation. Look at the
fucking
shenanigans they get
idiots?
up to. Like you saying, like, why the fuck is a psychiatrist marrying his patient's ex-wife,
Yeah.
who becomes his patient? It's
Yeah.
like, well, because look at the family already.
They're already in crisis, and Wiz is just kind of there, being like,
Wiz is there. Jason is
Jason
dealing with
is
it.
playing chess.
And then it's up until like the chess game,
Oh, the chess game.
where it's all very funny. And then it gets a little serious. But like father to son is still not a happy but upbeat ending to an act.
It's a conclusion, definitely.
Like you're like, oh, but at the end of the day, they are still a family.
Yeah,
They're helping each other out.
they are the tight-knit family that Marvin wants.
Act 2 starts, Falsetto Land. And it just sounds, the opening like bit of it sounds creepy.
Yeah, it's almost like a clock. Because it goes,
Yeah.
it's about time, Wizard. It's about time.
It's like it's really sharp. It's like I think a piano mainly.
It
It's
does
really
sound
sharp.
like, yeah.
And it sounds creepy. It's like you'd imagine it at the opening of like Dracula. It sounds creepy.
Yeah, it sounds ominous in a way that nothing in the first act had.
But then pretty quickly, well, I would say yes, the beginning like lines, at least the way they're delivered, a little creepy. A little like, something's happening.
Yeah.
And then the second you get to like Welcome to Falsetto Land with Nancy Reagan, meanest and thinnest of the first ladies, moves into the White House. I think of that is still funny.
Yabba
It's
dabba
like,
da.
oh yeah.
You're back to yabba dabba da. It's the 80s.
Yabba dabba da, it's the 80s.
Oh, and then all of a sudden we've got 2 new characters where they literally that's when they say the lovers come and so they literally go homosexuals, women with children, XX lovers, and a teeny tiny band.
And then as it gets towards the end, it's still kind of funny. It's like a little bit more serious, but it's the seriousness that you had at the end of Act 1.
Yeah.
Which is like ultimately they are still a family.
Yeah.
They are still going to help each other out.
But
also they're a quirky family, so it's still shenanigans.
Yes, shenanigans are being had. And you
can quickly forget about how weird the opening is of Act 2 because it's still funny. It's like, haha, yeah.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you hit something bad is happening.
Yeah.
Something bad is happening is the kind of first time they properly mention AIDS.
And the piano's back. And they still never explicitly say.
Yeah, they're like, bachelors arrive sick and frightened. They leave weeks later unenlightened. We see a trend, but the trend has no name. Something bad is happening. Something very bad is happening. Something stinks, something immoral, something so bad that words have lost their meaning. Blah, 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 blah. You get this idea that even if you don't know, because then you also have lines, my spirit stag when I read the magazines, men dressed in drag next to their mums, fashion and passion and filler, but not a word about the killer. I like the ball gowns, but Jesus Christ, something bad is happening. Something very bad is happening. And then it goes into Wizard and Marvin.
Oh, yeah.
Playing racquetball.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You got Day in Falsetto Land, which is just back at haha, antics. Wizard and Marvin are back together.
Because after that, you get holding to the ground, days like this, cancelling the bar mitzvah, unlikely lovers, another miracle of Judaism, something bad is happening, reprise. You gotta die sometime. Jason's bar mitzvah, what would I do? And Falsetto Land.
I think You Gotta Die Sometime has probably some of the best lyrics in the whole show.
It is one of my favorite songs. Like,
it's
incredible.
Let me get up the lyric. Death is not a friend, but I hope in the end he takes me in his arms and lets me hold his face. He holds me in his arms and whispers something funny, lifts me in his arms and tells me to embrace the attack. And then the scene turns to black. Yeah.
And then they repeat it afterwards differently. Death's a funny pal with a weird sort of talent. He puts his arm around my neck and wants me to the bed. He pins me up to the wall and kisses me like crazy. The many stupid things I thought about with dread now delight. Then the scene turns to white. And I think that bit in particular is very important to me, at least, because Death is a lover. He got AIDS from his lover, or from one of them. At least we can assume that.
Yeah, I don't think it's never implied that Wizard was on doing any drugs or injections.
Yeah, or getting like blood transfusions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's like insinuated that Wizard does sleep with a lot of people.
I think You Gotta Die Sometime is possibly one of the best songs ever.
I love that song.
Musical.
I think it's great.
Genuinely incredible.
I think about the imagery in that song all the time.
I don't think I can put into words how good it is.
It's almost like me talking about flowers. I'm like, I just really love this song.
It is really good.
I just really love this song.
I think
There's
it's one of those songs that I think has never lost its impact because
no.
dying never loses its impact.
In the words of Lana Del Rey, we are born
Oh
to
my
die.
God, yeah.
Returning to the idea of a ball game, like life is a game. They are constantly talking about games in this show. The chess game, they're playing racquetball, and now even like at the end was just like, life's a game, and I fucking lost. You're gonna die.
They do a lot of games to show, I guess, the different dynamics.
Yeah.
Because chess is like power.
Mm-hmm.
Racquetball
Is a team
also
game.
power. Yeah, team, meant to be fun.
Yeah.
But they're like bitching each other throughout it,
Oh, yeah.
which is,
Oh, and
you
then you're
know.
also watching Jason play baseball.
And then I guess specifically the 2016 revival,
Yeah.
the cube.
The cube.
Like not a specific game, but like playing pretend.
It's almost like Tetris, trying to make all these
Yeah.
pieces fit.
Fucking cube is genuinely like genius.
It's so genius, man.
It's like it's so stupid to talk about, but it is
Like
such a
when I was
good
thinking about
like
falsettos, I was like, oh
prop.
shit, the cube, man.
Cube. Talking about this like idea of this thing starts creeping in
Mm,
throughout the second act
mm.
is again because it is organic in how it
Yeah.
was written. There's obviously a bit of like foresight on William Finn's part,
Mm.
where he was writing Act Two knowing about the AIDS crisis.
And he was also like the bar mitzvah has to happen because he was like,
Yeah,
I think that it was almost to show that life still goes on. Yes, a big part of the family is dying in the hospital right now, this unknown disease that's just ravaging people. But at the end of the day, you gotta go to the bar mitzvah.
I think it's also a kind of like unity thing. Like
Yes,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
life has to go on, it's we have to go on.
Yeah, as a family, we all have to attend this event and huddle together in times of crisis.
Because like obviously like masculinity is a big theme
Oh yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
falsettos, and a big part of that is basically just everything around the bar mitzvah.
It's becoming a man.
And I think like the idea of Jason wanting to like cancel it, I don't
Yeah.
know. I could genuinely talk about it and like dissect every little bit.
'Cause it's
Um,
really well written.
but I think as well it's one of those shows where I don't want to do that.
No.
I think when you are listening to it or watching it,
Mm.
you still have all of those ideas. So you have like, oh, this represents this, and this means this, and this could be linked to that. You have it, and then something else happens, and you have to move on.
Yeah,
And I really like that experience because that's life.
that's life, man.
Like
They don't
there's
even
not really a point where you can stop and be like, something bad is happening. What could it be? Let's dissect this.
trust me, like
It's something bad is happening,
yeah.
and then what? They're playing racquetball.
Yeah. The really weird thing about death is that life goes on. And you're
Yeah.
just there and you're like, oh my God, like, why isn't everyone in the world stopping right now? Because this has just
Yeah.
happened. When actually, for better or for worse, in a lot of ways, you gotta keep going with life, man.
I think as well, again, really important that this is about the AIDS crisis.
Mm.
If I tell someone that someone I knew died, they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You know, take all the time, like all of that stuff, like the niceties. The kind of idea of during the AIDS crisis, if you had to tell someone that someone you knew died of AIDS,
Mm.
a lot of the response would be good.
Yeah.
You know, thank God
Yeah.
that we're getting them out of here, that
Mhm.
they can't spread it anymore. And so it's not just that we don't see that in falsettos as much, obviously,
No.
because it doesn't go much further past was his death.
And also it's so focused on the family and their all
Yeah.
reactions that it almost doesn't have the scope to expand outwards. And I think in a lot of ways we have I don't this is just my experience about media. We have a lot of media talking about the general public's reaction and the mass fear and
Yeah.
anger. So do we need another that feels wrong to say, but do you get what
No,
I'm
no, I know
saying
what you
of
mean. Yeah.
there is space
I
for a story that's quite insular. Insular?
yeah. I think as well, by not having the kind of like not wider public, but other people's reaction to it, only the people who cared, again,
Mm.
is a really strong connection to the audience because the people who are going to see it, especially in its initial run, are going to be the ones affected by that. And it's saying like, you know what? Look at this weird family.
Yeah.
Look at how like quirky it is. Yeah, unlikely mixed matched. Like saying, look at that. Why can't you also be family? You know?
Yeah.
If we are all gay, if we are all going through this, we have to mourn for each other like a family would. Because everyone outside of this theatre is happy we are dying. I think it's a really important show.
I do,
And
I agree.
I don't like how people are trying to pretend that it is just as impactful now. Because a really important part of it is that it isn't.
And it was Falsettos without the context of the AIDS crisis and the way it was written wouldn't exist in the way we know it today. Like,
yeah. I think it very much works as a look at this like time capsule, this like picture of the time period.
Yeah.
Look at how lucky you are and how far we've come.
Yeah.
But do not forget that millions of people like Wizza, who you would have loved and empathized and like thought was really cool.
Funny, you are Jason in this scenario. You think that
you are
funny.
Jason, you are the general public outside of them believe that it was fine that they were dying.
Yeah.
It was borderline a good thing and halted efforts to look for a cure.
Yeah.
Despite the like havoc it raised on the community. And I think like again, I'm gonna try and focus on the now.
Yeah.
Because obviously that whole message has a different experience to the audience at the time it was happening.
One that
like we are all united, we are family.
One I'll never be able to
we have
understand for so many reasons.
Nowadays, I think it's like it's still the we are family. We are all united. Like respect your elders sounds weird because that's not what it's trying to do as a revival.
Yeah.
But I think again, I want to make it very clear. I think we are losing a lot of queer history, like an alarming amount.
Yeah.
Of one, because especially in like the US, and now more and more commonly here, it's just like taboo or borderline illegal to talk about it.
I mean, what was it? Section 28 in the UK, which banned talking about LGBT issues in school. Our current government would, I'm not saying they would, but they also just announced the return of national conscription.
Yeah.
So we are going back in time in a lot of ways of our policies.
If like this random tweet I saw, where it's if the kids believe the situation we are in now as queer people, while not great, is livable. You know, you are not being actively like hunted down for it. In some cases, you definitely are.
In the Western world.
In the like general Western world, apart from small individuals and like radical groups.
And small and fringe communities.
Yeah, you are not being hunted down for being queer. If you can convince the kids that that is how it's always been, and then you can convince the kids that, hey, actually, we don't like these people because they're evil. Like, look at all this shit the queer community is doing. They're trying to like corrupt you. They want to fuck kids, man. They want to fuck kids. And we've always given them, we've never been mean to them. We've always let them do what they want. But, you know, we have to take a stand at some point. Then if they don't know that actually it took millions of people dying, it took continuous efforts from activists to even get gay marriage legalized in 2015 in the US.
And the UK weren't like, we got gay marriage in
2005, 2010, somewhere around then. You know, honestly not that far earlier.
Yeah, and like the grand scheme of things, we weren't like a beacon of...
We weren't progressive. But if you can say, and we've always been nice to them, we've always let them do it, but now we have to take a stand. Then you can basically revert things to how they were before all of this, before like Stonewall as a like marking point. And you can say, but this is all justified. Because, you know, we've never done anything like this to them before. And if you erase all of queer history being like, yes, they have, you know, Stonewall was a riot. People don't riot for no reason.
Yes.
We're fucked. For lack of a better like way to say it. Yeah. But again, you're seeing a lot of these activists die during AIDS.
Yeah.
Well, like I think dying is even the wrong word. Were killed.
Yeah.
By AIDS. Because it's like the potato famine in Ireland.
Yes.
Well, technically speaking, natural. Definitely exacerbated by humans.
Oh, 100%.
the reason there is a cure now
Mm.
is not because of a lack of technology in the 80s. Some of it might be.
Some of it might, like, I mean, we know we have lived through a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we know how when global research efforts are focused, how quickly a cure can come about. Or not a
Like,
cure, preventable measures.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think with that, it is why it's important to note that Falsettos is a product of its time in a good way.
Yeah.
Because I think when people try to pretend like shows are just as relevant nowadays,
Mm.
at least for me, the implication is that they're like, this could be set today.
It couldn't.
For multiple reasons, it couldn't be set today.
Mm. And
Um,
isn't that a good thing?
and it's like you're still allowed to like sympathize and empathize and relate to these characters,
Yeah, 100%.
but it's not like you're going to leave the theater and go and talk to your friend who is going through what Wizard is going through and say, I saw this show that I think you'll love
Or
because
being,
it's just like you.
yeah.
Like, there is a difference from a show being contextual in what it is trying to say
Yeah.
and being linked to the time.
Yes.
And Falsettos is linked to the time, which
Yeah.
isn't a bad thing.
No, it's a good
You know,
thing.
it's like Hamilton. Hamilton is linked to the time. Hamilton isn't set in 2015.
But as Nell said when we walked by it the other day, if I go in that theatre, it will be 2015.
If I go in the theater, it will be 2015. But it is not set in 2015. And the things it is talking about can still be applied today. Like, it talks about, there's a reason. There's that iconic video.
Immigrants, we get the job done.
Immigrants, we get the job done with Mike Pence in the audience. Great video.
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm about.
Yeah, I really like Falsettos. I think
really
it's a very
like
important show. And I also think it's very important that it is a relic of the 80s to early 90s.
100%. And there's another show that I'm thinking of that's a relic, and I'm not going to talk about it because once I will start talking, I won't stop. It's been on
I'm
my
really
mind.
trying to think about what it could be. Next to normal.
No, it's not next to normal. Next to normal's not a relic.
Let's move on to something that everyone will be able to agree on.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And it won't be controversial or weird to say. And it can be something we can talk about really quickly and normally.
Really quickly.
The 2017 Tony Awards.
Woo! We're back, our old friend. Let's whack the pinata
I've missed
again.
it. Truly, I've missed it.
I've missed it. One of these days, that's one thing that we could put behind a paywall. Watching the 2017 Tony Awards and get drunk.
We're gonna get drunk.
We're gonna watch.
We're gonna rewatch the 2017 Tony Awards while drinking as well.
So it would be nominated for Best Actor in a Musical for Christian Borle, Best Featured Actor in a Musical for Andrew Reynolds and Brandon Uranowitz, Best Featured Actress for Stephanie J. Block, and Best Revival. I was a bit like, I get why it didn't get a set nom, but those blocks were sick talking about.
It's a thing. It's like definitely not best set.
No, like
but
Great
it
Comet
was the best set.
Great Comet was there though, so
if this wasn't the Tonys and was like a prestigious award, best set. Tonys, not even near the running.
Nowhere near the running.
Like Jamie Lloyd is closer. I want Jamie Lloyd's Sunset Boulevard to be nominated for best set at next year's Tonys. I genuinely want it.
I would die. Yeah, so the Hollywood Reporter would publish a piece. We've spoken about this piece at length before, talking about who should win and who will win. They would not have Christian Borle down as winning because the race was between baby Benji Platt and Andy Carl. We're not talking about Andy Carl at the moment.
He's in the doghouse.
He's in the doghouse, you know. Immensely popular Andrew Reynolds. If he was like basically saying if it was only him who was like in the category from the show, then maybe he could have won the Tony for it. But he's up against Brandon Uranowitz, so probably not. They would say that Stephanie J. Block should win for giving one of the season's funniest and most tender performances. Her rattled impression of I'm Breaking Down was perfection. In the best revival race, Falsettos and Miss Saigon, both of which opened in the early 90s and were nominated for Best Musical but came up short back then. Falsettos, which ended its limited run in January, and Miss Saigon, which was doing decent, if not spectacular business at the box office, both had their admirers. It'd go to Hello Dolly, crazy to compare the two.
Honestly, like,
However, they would perform at the Tony Awards, and it would have 260,000 views as of today. I'm not talking about that Tony Awards performance in depth. You guys scare me too much. It would be filmed on PBS on the 3rd and 4th of January 2017. It would be live from Lincoln Center, in association with enemy of the podcast, Broadway HD. That is to say, Broadway HD, I will edit this out if you ever decide to pay us, like, sponsorship. We will retract all the time.
we'll be your friend again.
We
But
have
right
told
now,
you to burn in hell.
enemy.
Enemy.
And you deserve it.
You deserve it.
Maybe
Why?
the prices have like actually gone down.
I reckon they probably
ever.
gone up. It would be the finished product would be released in July of the same year. The musical would later be featured on Great Performances that same year, which was PBS, which is like I think their version of the BBC, but like not as big. What?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they have PBS Kids, which is like CBBC.
Yeah. How much is
You
Broadway
are-
HD? How much is it this year?
It's either $7.99 a month or
Yeah.
$79.99 a year in pounds.
Yeah.
However, when you like look it up and you see like the little like pop-up description it gives under like the link, it says, "Welcome to Broadway Your Way. Broadway Your Way. Enjoy your Broadway favorites anytime, anywhere." And then $19.99 a month or $199.99 a year.
Yeah, it used to be really, really expensive. And I think that Falsettos Pro Shot was the thing that really launched Broadway HD. Like they
got
launched
released for free anyways.
on PBS, but if you're an all-American, you gotta pay on Broadway
Oh.
HD. Lincoln Center often do record their stuff and have it out.
Yeah.
This is how we have the Light in the Piazza Pro Shot, everybody. And I love that's how I ended up on a Light in the Piazza rampage, researching the Light in the Piazza. Everybody, go watch the Light in the Piazza Pro Shot. It may or may not be on YouTube. I actually have no idea. That things gets taken up and taken down every so often. I don't know. I've never watched it. There may or may not be an upload or re-upload of the Pro Shot on YouTube that may or may not have almost 500,000 views. I don't know. I've never watched a bootleg.
If it's a pro shot that got released for free, I think it's fine.
It would play the Upper Palace at the end of 2019. However, it would not be the same production. It would be directed by Tara Overfield Wilkinson, and it would be the European premiere of the show.
I think, unfortunately, that did hinder it a bit, because if it had the cube, people would have loved it.
We would have gone.
The people at the other palace at the end of 2019,
they were primed for the cube.
They wanted the cube badly. I think Falsettos much should have made a cube fidget toy. It would be great. I would buy it, first of all.
I would buy it, yeah.
Like, you know the like blocky ones where you can like twist them all out and then twist them back together?
Yep.
That, but the cube.
What's on stage to say about it? The word extraordinary often gets used when discussing art. It is most surprising to encounter a work that thoroughly deserves the description. Such is the case with William Finn and James Lapine's Falsettos, receiving a London bow 27 years after the Broadway premiere. It is worth the wait, especially for a production as good as this one, staged with intelligence and theatrical flair by culprit choreographer and catapult director and choreographer Tara Overfield Wilkinson into her tiny band of British creatives that managed to manage both skills seamlessly. Here's a show that makes your heart soar before breaking it.
Yeah.
I wonder,
basic, but yeah.
I wonder if it would have gone to the West End if COVID hadn't happened.
I think there's a clear reason why it went to the other palace.
Yes.
Despite, again, 27 years after it premiered on Broadway, with like the first production in 92, the insanely popular 2016 revival.
Yeah.
The cult following of the Pro Shot. And they were like, no, this should go off West End. And again, probably other reasons for it. The fact that it had a different director and choreographer and was doing something different could definitely be a part of it. Yeah. And I think my point is, if it came back, it would not immediately go on the West End, in my opinion. It definitely could. I would love to see it on the West End.
I would love it.
And I definitely see a universe where it happens. But it's again also like the thing. And this is less impactful as it was when I said it about Fun Home. because it did just have a revival in 2016.
Yeah.
But it's like, hasn't been back on Broadway yet either. I know it did take like 20, 30 years the first time, but again,
Should we talk about the cult around it now?
I don't know if I have it in me.
I've just got a couple quick points. The Pro Shop basically allowed it to have a lasting impact. Good
And
endorsement for
people
Pro
love In
Shops.
Trousers.
People fucking love In
People
Trousers.
love In
Again,
Trousers.
guys, if you want to watch another PBS Pro Shop, which I don't think you actually do, watch The Light on the Piazza. There's some very complex characters for you to get into. No one's overtly gay, but you guys can headcanon.
The subtext is there, and I know you guys love that.
They're Italian. You can't actually tell what they're saying anyway. Some songs are Italian in Italian, and yes, you are gonna have to get past the fact that Matthew Morrison is speaking Italian. But you'll get there.
You'll get that.
Really interesting disability representation for you guys to get your little claws into. Actually, I do not want to hear your takes. I've already read a take this week that Clara is not disabled. It's just a metaphor for femininity, and to that I say, get fucked. She very explicitly was kicked in the head by a horse. That's the plot of Like the Beatles.
Great show. Had Dove Cameron in it at some point. I remember that.
I highly rate Dove Cameron for doing that, and I think she should always be singing like the Piazza everywhere, all around the world. Me and my friend talk about this often. Kelly O'Hara as well. Love you. Honestly, I think the song The Line in the Piazza might be one of my favorite songs of all time. I'm not joking. That song is one of my favorite things in the whole entire world. I could talk for hours about it, so I'm gonna stop myself now. Zoom reunion. They would have a Zoom reunion in 2020. People would make those stupid out of context videos. What's just happened? End the episode on our good friend Trish. She likes falsettos now because of this pro shot. She did really weirdly sexualize Christian Borle and Andrew Reynolds, but what else do we really expect from
But listen,
Trisha?
Who else wasn't?
I've personally never done it, but I know people were.
Yeah. I haven't. I have a lot of respect for gay men.
And they really do chastise Trisha for doing it. I was like, I swear half of you guys have done it. Don't be rude to Trish like that.
No, I was gonna try and justify any of it. It's stupid.
It's all stupid. Yeah.
I never liked Trisha Paytas. I think she's really weird.
She's a fascinating internet case study.
It will do everyone good to remember that she is rage bait. And she has never not been rage bait.
100%.
Everything she does is to get interactions through people being mad at her.
Yes.
Which I have a lot of respect for, first of all.
Yeah.
Get the bag. However, hate her for it. Because all it does is incite hate.
Yeah,
I'm on a political grind right now.
Trish is everywhere, all over the internet, in ways you would never expect. And as someone who lives for chaos sometimes, I do appreciate her antics, but also at the same time, it's like, sure, Trish, sure. You're gonna fight the Falsettos fans. I found a Tumblr post that I'll include in the links, which is hilarious. And there's a photo of her and Andrew, Christian Borle, if you guys would like to peruse that in the links as well. Now it is time for us to say what we're doing next week. Nell has said at the end of every episode for about 3 weeks now what we're doing next week. And I've had to cutting it. Edit it out because I'm like, I'm not saying what we're doing next week until it's time, because
the week before.
It's a big
one.
It's a big one.
Big
guys.
gay one. Big one for Pride Month. Esme, tell them what it is.
Why, of course, it is Les Miserables.
And I want to let everyone know this right now. I am going to rewatch the movie.
And when she refers to it, it's going to be, oh yeah, I like when they do this in the movie.
I have not seen the stage production since like 2013.
Yeah.
It's been over 10 years. Yeah. I'm going to rewatch the movie at least once, possibly twice.
Jesus.
Before we record the next episode.
Yep.
And I need everyone to know that everything I say about Les Mis is about the movie, because I love the movie.
She does. She fucking loves that movie.
Esme hates this about me as well.
Yeah.
Whenever I listen to the recording of Les Mis, it is the movie recording. It's the movie soundtrack.
I do have to concede that Do You Hear the People Sing is really well recorded on the movie soundtrack.
It is really good.
And that's the really good. Only good thing
People are too mean to Russell Crowe. I think he was really good at it.
Okay.
I think he brings a realness to the character.
Sure. Don't join us next week. Why are we doing Les Mis next week?
Well, Esme, You insisted.
No, I
You
didn't.
said you said now too many Pride musicals in a row. We need to break it up. And I said, Esme, I think in this day and age especially, it's really important to talk about Pride musicals. And she said, Nell, shut up.
I
We're
didn't
doing
say
this.
that. If I had my
No.
pick of shows, we would be next week. We wouldn't actually be doing Les Mis.
What would we be doing instead?
I'm in a piazza mood, okay?
Oh, okay, yeah. Basically, the reason we're doing Les Mis next week is because on the 14th of June,
Yeah.
it's we're doing Les Mis next week for two reasons. Number one, the 5th and 6th of June is the June Rebellion, which is what Les Mis is based on, very loosely.
Yeah,
Is based on. Okay, it might be because I knew Les Mis was based on the June Rebellion, and so I knew it had to go in June.
Yeah.
It probably would have made more sense to do it this week because that's closer to the dates. But then the 14th worked out nicely as well, as like a month early, because I refuse to do anything for the French correctly.
Yeah, now does hate the French.
Hate the French
before we go into next week.
I've hit day like 15 or
Yeah.
something ridiculous of my French streak on Duolingo because I'm trying to relearn it.
Yeah.
My sister keeps making fun of me, and I still can't read my 6-year-old Barbie French book.
Nice.
So I'm trying to learn.
Or
relearn.
But also, like, a lot of you guys do ship Andras and one of the Barricade boys. Not Marius.
You don't know his name?
Not Marius. It's not Andras and Marius. It's one of the other fuckers. It's like the Newsies, where each of them have a name and a backstory.
He's like known.
It's like Gustavo Grantaire, you take the watch.
Angelas and Grantaire.
Angelas and Grantaire. People really ship them.
I don't remember what their fucking ship is called. It's like, oh, it is like Angleterre, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stupid name. God, I hate
anyway.
people. I also fucking hate Marius Pontmercy.
Marius! I fucking hate Marius, let me be real here. Team Eponine for life. She died because Marius sucks.
Craziest thing I've ever said to Esme.
Yep. Should we save this for next week or?
Yeah, but it was to do with Les Mis before Esme liked Les Mis.
And that was like the one thing I could be like with Les Mis. Yes, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. Anyways, Les Mis next week.
Les Mis next week.
I will do a Pride thing for it. I also lied. I didn't make my TikTok. I just laid on the sofa all day back home.
I didn't make any TikTok, so.
Guys, we're getting back into it, I promise.
Swear, once life stops being, I keep saying once life calms down, and then it never does. Also, I'd like to say this, I'm gonna get sappy for a second, but there's been a lot more people listening, and genuinely thank you. In case you couldn't tell, this month's been really long and really quite hard. I'm not gonna start crying, believe it or not. I've cried more this month than I ever have.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into it on here. Don't really feel like it.
I don't know. Obviously, it kind of means nothing. It's just us two rambling, but it is nice to have people listen.
It's
like, wow, we're so cool and popular.
No, sometimes I think about like what 14-year-old me would think that people actually like people I don't know care enough to listen.
Yeah,
you know, and that's a nice feeling. But yeah, we're gonna be more sane now. We promise.
We're doing Les Mis next week.
Whatever we're
doing next week.
After next week. After next week, we're gonna be so sane. Actually, no,
oh no, we're not. Because I hate the one after next week.
Do you just hate? Right, bye guys. Leave us a review. Follow us on TikTok. Yeah, and
also on
Instagram and Twitter.
I'm funny on there like occasionally. I hope that news about the Falsettos like London revival comes out tomorrow, so I can have another funny tweet.
Yeah.
And that you can repost on Instagram and a certain someone can interact with.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Shout out to the influencers as always. I love being in your Discord.
You are not in the influencers Discord.
No, we're not. We've talked about infiltrating it.
I'm gonna get my sister to do it. I want her to be in on the group ticket.
I fear that one of our episodes has made it into the Discord.
Yeah, the Annie one.
No, I think Joseph's made it in.
Are you fucking kidding?
Joseph got a suspicious amount of streams this week.
What do we say, Joseph?
We start conspiracy theorizing about America.
Yeah. No, they love
No,
watching us because we
no.
love Operation Mincy,
Yeah.
and we always have.
Live, laugh, love. Bye guys. Bye.
Bye.